It was in the 11th or 12th grade in 2007-ish that I read The Birds by Daphne du Maurier, who is and then who didn't receive her writing chops at the time. But after some time, she eventually did and became a resident of Cornwall, England. Phil, if you're watching, that one's for you. Then the movie was adapted into The Birds in 1963, and in this case, a whole bunch of birds attack Bardoga Bay in California for a reason. No one particularly knows why in universe. Hitchcock was inspired to make The Birds after reading a news account of a 1961 incident in Capitola, California, where thousands of sooty shearwaters smashed into houses. Other than a traditional music score, the soundtrack for The Birds is composed instead of electronic sound effects that include simulated bird cries and wing flaps. The sound effects were created by the Mixtratonium, an electronic musical instrument invented by Oscar Sala. The only music heard in the film is by the children singing in the school, which is a traditional Scottish ballad. Tippy Hedren was discovered in a diet drink commercial by Hitchcock. Hitchcock wanted to give the impression of unending terror, so he did not add the end to the picture. And I'm neither poor nor innocent. Melanie Daniels. And sometimes you just, like, I watched this when I was 25 and I didn't know too much of what was going on. But now it's like I watched this at 35 and it's just like, okay, now I can see why this one's of particular disturbance, but in a good way. It's just the lack of music and just what happens when thousands of birds assemble and when this family is just trying to survive. But at the same time, this family is kind of, well, at least Melanie is, they are self-absorbed, a bored socialite who pulls a prank. There's also the mother who is just moaning away, who is too absorbed about her husband and like saying I miss him, and it's like, yeah, you can miss your husband and things like that, but when you get too self-absorbed and ignoring others, and even listening in, even when they're sitting in the diner bar-ish area and they talk about like their what is it, when they talk about like prophecies and things like that and quoting biblical verses or whatever, and it's like you kind of feel sympathy for the birds. It's also about like it's about what happens when we get too complacent. When we get too complacent, and even that partakes in nature, with like pollution and fog and everything. These bastards are going to attack and nature will rear its ugly head and be like, oh, you're not the only one that's alone. It's like, yeah, you got your problems and things like that, but I am coming to strike back with vengeance upon thee, or whatever. So, yeah, it's just this little island, the bodega-ish, and I don't know, it's just, it's tense and eerie. There have been many scenes alone when Melanie's sitting outside of a school and the children are singing the Scottish ballad. There's like the birds, they continue to assemble, the numbers increase, and she is completely unaware, smoking a cigarette. And it does go on for like 3 to 5 minutes. So it's just a tense scene of an attack that could happen at any moment, but they remain docile for whatever reason. The same time when they attack. It's like, oh, okay, let's feature a gas station. Gas station attendant gets billed, all right? And then some gas starts leaking, it goes out. Let's have a guy who's smoking a cigar, completely unaware, and a whole bunch of people are yelling from inside, hey, don't drop your match. He does, however, unknowingly, and it just causes a massive explosion. I mean, it is quite a sight to see. They've also got like a helicopter shot, controlled flames and everything else, but just to see that what the destruction that can be caused by it is just insane to see. I mean, it's like this film is slow, deliberately slow. All right, and there were moments of downtime. I wouldn't say boredom necessarily, but just more adding to the silence and eeriness of like the wide shots, long takes, and bright colors to what should seem like a paradise for some people. It ultimately becomes an unexpected hell. And I mean, even the green dress that that Hedron wears is just it's become iconic in its own way, but it's at the same time as like you can tell, yeah, right there, 6 of those dresses were made. Um, Ultimate, there's just imagine just having thousands of birds, just being there. Crows and ravens mainly, are like harbingers of just like omens and things like that. So just to see that is just interesting. Just it's like with the music, just is like it's only composed of like the bird sound effects and the song, the traditional Scottish ballad. Yeah, I mean it's just it was like they buy the lovebirds in the beginning. It's like they mentioned it's like, hey, yeah, this is kind of meant to be like the beginning blossoms of a romance. And it's like Mitch played by Rod Taylor and Melanie. It's like their love is starting to begin, but eventually those are discarded as the birds come in and swarming, which I heard that represents the discussion that was going on and just how it's quickly forgotten. Like it's there, but then it just becomes chaotic and everything. So that was definitely an interpretation, but yeah, the last I don't know 40 minutes where they're inside that house alone, just some dialogue, but there's no music, and it's just like the mother is getting desperate because just missing her, too absorbed in her dead husband, and just like when they're waiting for the birds to attack and everything, and ultimately it's just sheer quiet, but at the same time chaos for the last 30 minutes. And it's like right at the end, like when Hedron is going right into the scene, she just gets brutalized by these birds, and it's just intense to see just so many. I think it was 32 edits were done for a 90-second scene. It was absolutely surreal. And there was an earlier scene where she was in a phone booth, but fortunately she got injured from shards of glass because they were going to use mechanical birds, but last second they got replaced with real birds. So yeah, all just being confined in that small space when you just witness an explosion. Supposedly it was because Alfred Hitchcock was trying to make some sexual advances on Tippi Hedren, and because she refused them, they did this. Supposedly, they switched the mechanical birds for the real ones. I don't know what to believe about that, but given Hollywood's history of perversion and stuff like that, I would say there's some truth. Like maybe there was some stuff. Ultimately, what I read was that towards the end, the making of Marnie is when the unwanted, the sexual advances came. Kind of just those two stopped working together. Let's just say that. But it did happen, but media blows it out of proportion. So say what you will about that. So I don't know. This movie is just. Oh yeah. Then anyway, at the end, when they have to take her to the hospital, slowly just making their way to the car, and then they just leave. But there's not even the end title. So yeah, this movie is not. This movie is perfect for horror fans, mystery, suspense, whatever. Um, it's like all those scenes. How it takes place in the small towns. Like yeah, rather than just being the big city, let's have it in the small town, and just have it be so haunting just be like, hey, this is freaking fantastic. This is great. The author herself was disappointed that it didn't take place in England. And instead, it was just moved to America, which is just like whatever. But it was faithful to what I can remember when reading it. Just outside, because it was like the original, it was like technology that caused the mess with like the magnetic polarity in the air that caused the birds to attack. And I guess here it was altered a little bit, but still retained the spirit. So this is a mostly good, faithful adaptation, just given a Hitchcockian treatment, if you will. So, and like ultimately, that's what led to people enjoying the birds.